Welcome, good morning. Thank you all for coming out on this holiday weekend. And know that you're always welcome here at the Umpqua Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Lillian Fifield, and I am your service leader for today. And glad to see you all here. I think I see one face. Couple of announcements. First of all, starting with, where is it? It's always on me. Always on me. Masks. They are now optional in here as long as you are fully vaccinated. And it's up to you if you choose to continue wearing a mask. For those of us who have autoimmune challenges or other kinds of challenges, you may well see us continuing to mask. Our Sunday services, as you know, are being live streamed outside of the UU for both our congregation and anyone in Roseburg who would like to join us via YouTube. So if you have any friends and you've been wanting to introduce them to our congregation, you might some Sunday sit with them and watch the service, and it might be a good way of saying welcome. Our ministers for today are the Reverends Bonnie and Andy Anderson. And Bonnie's going to be speaking of the growing edge, or as she quoted, that place from where that which is next in our life is being born. That sentence caught my eye. And of course, much appreciation for Reverend Andy Anderson's and his very special beauty and truth-telling through music and original song. And as always, appreciation to our staff and our committees and our Sunday services crew and all of you for being here. We have a few announcements, so I'm going to start with Nell. Are you easily accessible up here, Nell?
I'm Nell Stokes-Moser of the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee is sponsoring the meal for next Sunday's congregational meeting. What we usually try to do is have some card tables out here so that we can sit down and actually have a meal. But we need card tables. We have about 4 among us, maybe 5. So if during this next week, if you have a card table you can loan us, please bring it up here. Just set it anywhere up against a wall. Be sure your name is on the bottom so you can get it back. Okay, thanks.
And speaking of next week, let's have Martha Sinkula come up and tell us about what's actually happening next week that might be of interest.
Good morning, everybody. Next week, we're going to have a couple of things. First of all, we're going to have our in-gathering, which means that we're all going to get together and a recognition of our membership, new members, and all the wonderful things that can happen if we all pull together. Our focus is going to be on developing leadership over the next year so that we can get committees moving. And this is a part of recognizing those persons who have put things together through this past years, I should say. Also, we'll be doing a recognition of the Flower Communion, which is a tradition started by Reverend Capek in Prague way back in the mid 20th century. He died in one of the concentration camps because he preached the uniqueness of every individual, and that he was the one that really spoke to the Unitarians with the the feeling of that we're all one. So the flower communion represents the unique individuals that make up the flower community, as in bouquets, and we all represent unique strengths and beauty. So we're all going to focus on that, and that's what we're going to be doing next week. Have I missed anything? Yes, the congregational meeting will then follow. I'm sorry. I'm thinking that I already said that. I apologize. So the congregational meeting will then go, and we will be electing a slate of new board members, or we're going to be presenting a slate of new board members. JC, was that it? That you're waving at me for?
Aren't we supposed to all bring a flower?
Yes, we are. And again, sorry, we are supposed to each bring a flower. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Erickson back there, Miss Connie, who always brings us beautiful bouquets, if perhaps she could bring a bouquet of flowers for the front door. Would you be able to do that, Connie, next week? That would be lovely. Thank you.
So just to summarize and reiterate all of that, you don't want to miss celebrating the flower communion, which is really an opportunity not only to recognize the beauty in our world, but the beauty in our membership by applauding those new members who are joining with us and the current members and friends who donate so much of their time keeping our wonderful home operating. And after that, the congregational meeting with food in between. So it's definitely a time for you all to come. And we need you. We have one more announcement, and J.C. Pratt's going to help me with that one today. And it involves the pledge drive conclusion.
I've accepted the challenge of inviting you to all dig deep because we are not close enough to our goal. I want you to look at the front of your program. And where we are right now is on our own personal edge here at UUUC. An edge is a very powerful place. It's a place where imagination comes forward and where we learn what is the better good that we get out of what we believe. My faith, as you probably are well aware of, in this church and in the Unitarian concept is very strong. So I am really excited that I have made my really big pledge because I am looking forward to how improved, how expanded, how my faith in our principles will be defined as we look at the edge where we are. So I'm looking for new people that will teach me new things. I'm looking for ways that we welcome new people and find how they expand our community. So I invite you to realize that your pledge is meant to be for a whole year. And our work that we have done so diligently for the last 2 years is only going to get better. We were at church with you last week in Washington, D.C. So all that Jake is doing and all that I've forgotten the word, the money that we have written for and gotten to support the equipment is working. We were in Washington, D.C. at UUUC. So the other thing, I got all excited about what our leadership is thinking about. And so I'm offering to do a weekly read of the UU world with those of you who might be interested. I'm thinking Wednesday. I'm thinking, let's find out what they're planning so that we can be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, J.C. So in conclusion, we had a goal here, and we're about $25,000 short. So I have a challenge for all of you. Challenge number 1, do not think that you have to be a member to pledge. We have pledging friends. There are lots of folks who, for business reasons and other reasons, do not want to be signed up as a member, or just like they don't want to be signed up as a Democrat. You know what that's all about. Okay. Number 2, when you sign up and you pledge an amount, don't go by what you paid at the gas tank this week. Think about an amount you're pledging over the year that you will be paying out, if necessary, over the year. Times will and do change, okay? And third thing, I ask all of you to talk with your friends and other people that you know attend services here, and just ask, not in a nosy way and not in a how much way, but do you know the pledge drive is almost over, and have you sent your pledge in yet? We will find there are people who haven't gotten the information, or people who have forgotten, or people who, little guilt, as my mother would say, it doesn't hurt. So please help us all take care of our home so that our home can continue to take care of us. That amount of money is not frivolous. That amount of money goes into everything you see here, everything you receive in the mail. It pays not the greatest of salaries, but it certainly supports some very creative and wonderful people. And just know you're getting a good deal for your dollar. Okay, end of Lillian's sermon. Thank you for listening. And speaking of money, I get to collect now from you for fish. And you all know what fish is. We've supported fish from this congregation for many, many years, and we gladly accept whatever money or food that you have available to provide. Thank you, everyone, and know we are grateful for your contributions, as are the people who will be the recipients. We begin each service here at UUUC by lighting our chalice and saying a few words. The words this morning come from Bets Winnecki, and she entitles it, "May This Flame." May this flame symbol of transformation since time began. Fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good and needed within and around us. I have some opening words to share with you today, and I want you to bear with me because they're kind of long, and I think they're real important. So it's entitled, I Want to Be with People. Some of you may know this piece. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they are getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved or to be eligible for salvation. And I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all kinds of things. And I want to be with independent-minded people of a good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. And I want to be with people who see in me my goodness and dignity, and who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I can be a challenge. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. And I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and will hold my hand as I walk mine. And I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher thinking and more ethical living. And I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. Help us keep our church home open. We have no children to sing downstairs. Gosh. So that brings us to the circle of life, that time where each person who would like to comes forward. The microphone will be available, and you can either share your care or concern or milestone out loud or not, and candles are available to be lit. We're a small group, so how about if we start on the side where It is at this time that we do our offertory for the church, so baskets will be passed, and we hope that we can collect your pledges or contributions as you are able. Thank you. Know that we are deeply grateful for your contributions, and they will be put to good use. It is at this point that it gives me great pleasure to turn over the microphone and the music to our beautiful Reverend Bonnie Anderson and Andy Anderson. Both, as you know, are ordained ministers. They live here in Roseburg, but they love traveling around the West Coast and sharing both their music and message with other congregations as well. Reverend Bonnie is an interesting teacher who's often lively and upbeat. She has a way, though, of just dropping whatever it is her mission for the day, sermon, in when you least expect it, and then you go, oh. And Reverend Andy, of course, is a singer-songwriter who always comes from his heart and composes and performs visionary and spiritual music that inspires and uplifts. So I'm now turning this over to Reverend Andy Anderson, who's got some music for us, and then Reverend Bonnie Anderson, who may have a meditation for us, and a sermon, and then Reverend Andy, who has some more music, and I'm going to sit down and enjoy.
See the morning sun shining in the sky. I can feel its warm embrace on my face. As I look around and see all of nature's gift to me, take it in, feel the love inside. I'm not gonna hold me back when I know everything's gonna be alright. This is a perfect day, perfect place for me. And I'm so glad to know I'm free to see the love of you and me. And know that I am loved. Love is the only power in the universe I know can lift me up to a place I've never known. So I live from an infinite place, surrounded by love and grace. It's all there is. There's nothing else to know. So I'm not gonna hold me back when I know everything's gonna be alright. This is a perfect place for me. And I'm so glad to know I'm free to see the love of you and me. And know that I am loved. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh. So I live from an infinite place, surrounded so glad to know I'm free, for there's only you and me, and know that I am loved. Oh, by infinite love, I'm loved by infinite love.
Thank you, Andy. That was beautiful. I didn't know what you were going to sing until you sang it. That was the perfect song. So let us have a short meditation before we begin. If you would get comfortable and close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and take a deep breath. A full deep breath filling your lungs and letting it go. Take one more deep breath. Hold it a minute and let it go. We let go of any energy that it took to get here this morning, anything we know we have to do. Just let it all go and be here now in this moment, fully present. And I'd like you to imagine that you are in a beautiful forest. You look around and see the trees. You can smell the trees and the earth. You reach out and touch a tree and you feel the rough bark under your fingers. And you walk and you hear the birds. It is the perfect place, the perfect time. And as you walk, you see an area that has been prepared for planting. The earth has been loosened and made ready and fertilized, and it's ready for you to plant your seed. And you look down and you see in your palm a seed, and you know that this seed is for peace. A seed of peace. It's very small and precious. And you take this seed, and there's a trowel laying nearby. You make a place for it. You gently, carefully plant this seed of peace and cover it with soil. And it's as if you can see below the surface and actually watch the magic that this seed begins to germinate. You see a light in it. The light gets larger. The seed begins to break apart, and roots begin to form into the earth. Anchoring roots, beautiful roots, gently pushing down into the earth, anchoring this seed of peace. And then it begins to grow upward. A stalk, a tender stalk emerges and gets larger, fills out, and in your mind's eye, whatever you see, if it's a flower, if it's a tree, whatever it is that is coming forth from this seed of peace, imagine it growing quickly, rising up from the earth in all its beauty. Forming into that beautiful flower or that tree or that plant, growing and becoming stronger until it is taller than you. And this seed of peace multiplies. multiplies until you see all the seeds. We see all the seeds of each one of us have planted together in this garden. It is unique and beautiful and different and brings peace to the world in each unique expression. And you behold this beauty. You feel these plants rooted into the earth, and you celebrate each one. As you take another deep breath, and just take a moment and gaze upon these unique expressions of peace. We are stronger together when we plant our seeds together and let them emerge and grow and express the peace that is needed. So it is. Take a breath. When you're ready, open your eyes. And Andy's going to share another song with us.
I know that I am wise, powerful, and free. This is my truth of me. I know that I know more than I think I know. So I'll let myself grow and know so much more. And see the beauty in every living thing, flowers and the trees, the love that's you and me. It's all there is, and know I can grow and know so much more. So come on and step right in. It's time the strength within. Just know and let go and know there's only one power, only one love, only one peace that lives within. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm one with all there is. I'm one with this presence within. So I celebrate my joy and my power. There's only one life is living in. Deep down inside, I know that it's real. I'm alive, awake, and aware. God's love is everywhere. It's within you, it's within me, it's everywhere. So every day I give myself permission to grow and grow and know I know so much more. I know so much more than I think I know.
Thank you, Andy. So it's so exciting to be here with real people. We've been to a couple of other churches, a few other churches that are meeting in person, and it felt so good. And this is the first time here, so it really feels good to see all of you here. What a celebration to be able to be together and to see each other and to sometimes see our whole face. So that's nice. The Growing Edge is the name of my talk. You know, the growing edge is the boundary between the known and the unknown. We can get very comfortable in our lives, and this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to get comfortable, to be in my comfortable chair, curled up, reading a good book, staying home. It's very sweet and peaceful and safe to have a predictable life, right? But we all know that life is not predictable. We were awakened by that last week. Yet after a while of feeling comfortable at home in our little cocoons, each one of us gets the feeling that it's time to take the next step. It's time to step forward, to emerge, where we stretch the margin and move to a place where everything is not known. This is the place of creativity. In order to let our creativity out, we have to be willing to enter the world of the unknown. We're not sure what's going to emerge. This can be exciting as well as terrifying, this calling to step forward. Life calls us to new challenges and adventures, new ways to serve. Every time we take a step out into the growing edge, we become an example for others. And our courage can be an inspiration because we never know who's watching. Sometimes we think no one is watching, but believe me, others are watching. Our children, our grandchildren, our friends, just people on the street, they see our essence. We have been locked up with COVID fears for a while, and maybe it's time to step out and emerge into the world. A teacher of mine used to say, let this new idea be the advancing front edge of your thinking. And I always liked that, the advancing front edge. I could picture an edge, like an uneven edge moving out into an expanded way of thinking, new ideas. Nature is always pushing new growth. If you want to see that there is something growing as well as things dying, look at nature. I mean, it always amazes me when I'm in the winter, when I drive down the street and I see all the bare trees, and I think, one day they're going to be lush and full. It doesn't seem possible, but here it is today. Drive down the street, the leaves are lush and full. We had a robin build a nest in the eaves under our covered deck. And we watched the whole process. And at first, she started building the nest, and there was another bird, I don't know if it was another robin or what it was, who would tear the nest down. She'd start to build it, and this bird would come, flop its wings, and tear it down. And there's a whole pile of weeds and sticks on the ground underneath. But she persisted. One day we woke up, and there was the nest. And she was sitting in it on her eggs. And we watched, and she was sitting for so long, it seemed like weeks, and I thought, oh, that poor bird, what's going to happen if those eggs are no good and they never hatch? And will she sit there forever? I mean, it's that urge, isn't it, for new life. It's that urge, that growth. And she sat, and then one day we started to see another robin out in the tree, and they would go back and forth with worms. So we knew that there had to be babies there, even though we couldn't see them. And now you can just see 3 babies sticking their head up above the nest waiting. And they love the rain. Andy was saying this morning that it's easier to get those worms with the rain that we had. But that's such a wonderful example of growth. The bird. Nature is always pushing to new growth. This is the growing edge. The courage to step out in faith, to not give up, to build that nest again and again and let it stay. We have been in our house for 14 years and we've wanted to plant a vegetable garden. We're not really great gardeners, but we have deer. So it's like, the deer are going to eat them up. And we didn't want to fence the yard. So this year I said, we're doing it. So we got some raised beds. Andy built a little fence around it and we planted some vegetables. And it's so exciting because it's only been like a week, maybe a week and a half, and you can already see them growing. The principle of growth is so amazing to watch because it can be so quick that you can almost see it happening. The growing edge is what causes you to get off the couch and go outside in the yard and look at the moon and feel the expanded nature of the universe, the vastness. It's what causes you to join a writing class, to sign up to volunteer for a cause that's important to you, to put on some nice clothes and come to church. This is the growing edge. We're here today together. When we pass over that growing edge, we enter a larger life and we start to see new opportunities that we didn't know were there. They were always there. I believe we always have everything we need, but we don't always see it. And when we begin to move out of our comfort zone, things show up that were there already. It's like, oh, I didn't know. And new opportunities open up. But sometimes we have to make that movement first. We discover like-minded people like we have today, but I liked what someone said, maybe it was Aline, that we don't want everybody that thinks just like us. When I say like-minded, I mean people who like to think, right? Who like to think and come up with new ideas, whose thinking is the growing edge. People that are also stepping out, becoming more vulnerable and alive and authentic. That's who I want to hang out with. We discover that the universe is conspiring in our favor. Einstein said, that's the basic question, isn't it? Is the universe safe? Is the universe safe? And I believe it conspires. When you plant a seed or have a desire, things start to show up and come in. The universe conspires in our favor. When we pass over, I already said that. David Whyte is one of my favorite poets. And I have to read you this poem, part of this poem that he wrote called Santiago. And I believe it's from when he was walking the Camino. So he was in the cutting edge himself, going out into doing something brave and new. The road seen and not seen, the hillside hiding, then revealing the way you should take. The road dropping away from you as if leaving you to walk on thin air, then catching you, holding you up when you thought you would fall. And the way forward always, in the end, is the way you came. The way that you followed, the way that carried you into your future, that brought you to this place. No matter that it sometimes took your promises from you, no matter that it always had to break your heart along the way, no matter that it always had to break your heart upon the way. The sense of having walked from far inside yourself into the revelation, to have risked yourself for something that seemed to stand both inside you and outside you, far beyond you, that called you back in the end to the only road you could follow, walking as you did in your rags of love and speaking in the voice that became by night a prayer for safe arrival. So the principle for the inherent worth and dignity of each person isn't just about other people. It's also about ourselves. We all have an inherent sense of worth and dignity. You are a magnificent creation of the universe, and your unique gifts are what are needed in the universe, in this world now. It is not a mistake that we are here together in such a time as this. What jewels are hidden within you? Will you step forth and share your own unique gifts with others? You don't know what spark of inspiration that you give off will fan another's fire. People don't even know. Look at the poet Amanda Gorman, who has touched so many lives, inspired so many. What if she left all her jewels inside because she was afraid? It may take courage to follow that urge to a larger life. Courage to enter a new relationship. Try something that you've never tried before. Is there something that you've always wanted to try and never have? I remember a few months ago, Donna Smith jumped out of an airplane. My goodness. She'd always wanted to do it, and she did it. There are so many examples of people that we know stepping out into life, taking that risk, stepping forward. And we often have very good ideas for staying, very good reasons for staying in our comfort zone. When I'm resisting that next step, I may have many reasons, good reasons, to not move forward. I'll tell you, my knee hurts. I'm too tired. I have to lose weight first. I have to finish my to-do list first and clean out my closet. I can't step forward right now. I've got a lot of things to do. Someone has already thought of this idea. If I want to write a book, well, somebody might have already written a book like mine. Maybe nobody will like it. Nobody will buy it. I'll put all this effort in to write this book and nothing will happen. I read a quote recently that reminded me of something that I'd forgotten. That is, argue for your limitations and you get to keep them. What do I want to keep those limitations? Do you want to keep the limitations that are keeping you from going for it? That woke me up. And actually, I thought about that the other day. My knee was hurting and I wanted to go for a walk. And I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to argue for my limitations. I'm going anyway. So you know that writing this talk was just what I needed to hear. That works a lot for ministers. You've had that happen to yourself. All right, so when we make that leap of faith, that jump, it's terrifying and wonderful. We feel fully alive. When Donna jumped out of that plane, I'm sure she felt fully alive. When Andy and I moved to Roseburg, we were terrified and we felt fully alive. We were just talking about that. It's been 14 years. It's time to not move across the country again, but it's time to embody those things that make us feel alive, taking risks. Here's the entire reading by Howard Thurman that inspired me to write this talk. Look well to the growing edge. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against a time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men have lost their reason. The source of confidence when words crash and dreams whiten into ash. The birth of the child, the most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. When we are out of joint and men have lost their reason. This has been such a difficult week with the shooting in Texas. How do we live with such horror and such sadness? How do we even try to understand why this keeps happening again and again and again? First, we grieve. And I realized the first time that when I first heard about the shooting, I was horrified, but I didn't let it get into my heart. I didn't let myself feel it. I just wasn't ready. It was too terrifying. So as the week went on, I was able to let it in and begin to grieve the loss. As Thurman said, all around us, life is dying and life is being born. New life emerges. I started to allow myself to think about the parent that hugged their child in the morning, never realizing that was the last time they'd be able to hug them. I started looking at the beautiful 10-year-old faces that will never see the next grade, the next age. And I just became overwhelmed with grief and sadness. But the next thing is, after grieving, is next we listen. We become aware of ways that we can be on the side of life. A friend of mine, Reverend David Alexander, said this: contrary to popular belief, being spiritual is not about being calm, still, and unmoved in troubled times. In fact, a state of holy discontent can birth the most creative, transformative, and powerful spiritual energy in the world. Holy discontent. The growing edge is often a place of holy discontent. Enough is enough. And then we listen. We open ourselves to the intelligence of the universe and ask, what is my next step? How can I hold the paradox of new life emerging and life ending? I don't know the answer. I don't yet know the answer. And I am embracing the question. I'm living with the question. All I can do now is imagine.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I hope someday you'll join us, and the world was a live as one. brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. We'll live as one. We'll live as one.
What do you say to two such beautiful people? Thank you. Thank you. Our closing words for today is that the world is too beautiful. The world is too beautiful to be praised by only one voice. And may you have the courage to sing your part. And the world is too broken to be healed by only one set of hands. And may you have the courage to use your gifts. And may we all move forward to the edge in peace. I'm going to extinguish the chalice, and when I do, I want to remind you, of course, to stay for coffee and talk, because we've heard a lot of things to talk about. But think on these words. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. Thank you all for coming. Please stay.